Alright, this is the second part of the pen tool demo to really explain how to use this pen tool. What we're going to need for this is we're going to need to have an image of something to trace. Okay? Because the best way to really learn the pen tool is to start tracing something. Last year we did self-portraits, so we were tracing our face. Years before we've traced objects. So we're going to kind of talk about doing both right now. Here was the demo that I had going last time. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to first get something to trace. So I'm going to open up Photo Booth, and we're going to take a picture of my face, and I'm also going to take a picture of an object. So you're going to see me. Okay, so here I am right here. And here's this object that I had just lying around. It's a hammer. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture of it. I'm trying to find a good angle so I don't have a stupid picture of a hammer, but maybe an awesome picture of a hammer. And that went ahead and took that picture. Now I can take this picture of a hammer, and I can move this to the desktop and put it right here. So we're going to use this later. Now I'm going to close this, and hold on just a second, I have to talk to some students. You're going to need to go and talk to Pat and Kathy. I am going to be doing this for like an hour. Okay. Thanks for coming in though. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, sorry guys for that interruption. Alright, so I've got me hanging out here with the hammer. Let's go back into Adobe Illustrator. Now, because you guys are under your HAL account names, and it'll say your name up here, you're not able to do a really basic kind of thing, and I'll show you. I'm just going to make a new document right here. But if I took this and dragged it here, you'll see that I can really just get my image straight into Illustrator. If you guys try to do this, it's going to show up with like a blank box. Alright? So, I'll show you what you guys are going to be doing. If you take this photo and drag it straight into this Illustrator icon, it should open it up just fine in Illustrator for everyone to be able to see. Now, here's something a little more advanced. I took this picture in Photo Booth. All the pictures that you take in Photo Booth, you'll definitely be able to do this too, alright? But some of you are probably going to get pictures from other places, like from digital cameras and things like that. Most pictures are going to be too big to do under your name. So, let me just close this real fast. If that's the case, where a picture just won't open up, it says something about insufficient memory, you first have to bring the image into Photoshop. Now this is advanced for most of you. You don't have to worry about this at all. But under the student's HAL account names, because we're going off of a Windows server, we have to kind of adjust things to make them work on these computers. Now you'll be dealing with Photoshop later. So again, students, you won't be doing this. This is going to be something that a teacher will do for you, especially now. But the image right here, if I go to image size, whatever size it says it is, you know, if it's big, it'll probably be big, especially if you're taking it off of a digital camera or something like that. But take the width and make it around 600 pixels. Alright? And once you get it 600 pixels, you'll be able to save it. I usually save things as baseline optimized and as the largest file size that I can, or the maximum quality, I should say. And then you'll be able to take this JPEG and drag it into Illustrator with no problems. Alright, so that's if there's a problem, you can kind of change things and do it that way. Alright, so let's talk about how to trace this hammer with the pen tool. Pen tool. Great, or we could choose the letter P. We can zoom in and out of an image using the command button and the plus sign. or actually it looks like it's the equal, but it also looks like a plus sign on your keyboard. And the command sign and the minus to zoom out. Alright? Now notice when you zoom into this picture, it gets really pixelated. Photographs use pixels. Things that are not photographs, so stuff that you actually make in Illustrator, they use vectors. So you'll be able to see that this looks pixelated, but the thing that we trace in in Illustrator will be not pixelated. It'll be nice and smooth no matter how much I'm zooming into it. So let me zoom out a little bit more. Actually, when you're zoomed into it, sorry, let me go ahead and go ahead again too. You'll see that I'm going to be moving around my image a lot. And instead of going to these bars and kind of scrolling, because that is really hard to navigate sometimes, I'm going to hold the space button. You notice when I hold the space button, my cursor turns into a little hand, and I'm able to click and drag around my image. Now, I'm not actually moving the photograph when I'm in that mode. I'll show you here. So notice that artboard. I'm actually just moving my looking, and you see that these bars are kind of moving around. So yeah, let me zoom into this. Now the other thing is, I don't want to accidentally click on my image and move it around. All right. So I want to lock this down so it doesn't move anymore. And I also want to do all of my drawing on a different layer. So here's some things that we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to make a little, sorry about this interruption.
The second testing period of the day is starting right now at 9:15. The second testing period is starting right now.
So I can lock this layer. When I lock this layer, notice right there, you'll see a little pencil with a line through it. It means, hey, you can't do stuff, which won't let you do anything on a layer that's locked. All right? I'm also going to make a new layer. And if you look here, there's a little Create New Layer button. And I made layer 2. Layer 2, let's double click layer 2 because we can change the name of it right here. So we can call this our drawing. Okay. Layer 1, let's double click. We can call this one our photo. And on layer 1, we can dim the image to 50%. I like to do that so we can see our drawing lines way better than we can see our picture. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Move around the image just a little bit. And let's see about getting this drawing started. I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to choose a fill color, something that you guys can see, like this blue. And we're going to start using this. Now notice that the pen is saying, hey, I can't draw because I'm on the photo layer right now. So that's why it's not letting me draw. Let's go to the drawing layer, and you'll see that now I'm able to start drawing. So let me first start. I never start in the middle of a curve. I always start on an edge, on a point. So let me start here. We're going to start with the hardest part first. I'm going to click right here. It's kind of a pointed edge. And let's start with this curve. Space bar so we can move around it. Well, now when you're using the pen tool, you're always going to want to try to make your curves as big as possible. So let's say, for example, I could totally start making a curve here. But, with Command Z, I could make a curve that actually takes up that whole side. You know, and if I kind of click there, I can kind of move it around. And let's see if I can do it. And it looks like I can't really. I'm getting really close, but not really. So let me undo that. Let me go kind of halfway. So I can make that curve nicely. And then, great. So I've got that curve. Now let's click here and see, all right, kind of making another curve. Excellent. Now I want you to notice when I'm making these curves where my points are. All right. So let me see. I feel like this kind of goes up here, and this kind of comes around here. All right. I'm going to stop at this point so we can really look at these points that I'm making. This point, I'm making a big curve that goes, you know, just a nice smooth curve. I have my points here and here, both on the outside of this curve. And notice the space between the points, between the point and the actual shape, it's almost the same distance here as it is here. And this works kind of like a seesaw. I don't want one point on the inside and one point on the outside because that makes, well, that makes a shape that just doesn't work. So whenever you're making shapes, you want both your points to be on the same side of the object as long as it's making a nice curve. Now, there's one point though. Let's see, it was not that one, not that one. This one. This one I had one point on the inside and one point here on the outside. That's because I was making kind of an S curve. You see this S that's going on here? You need to have one point on the inside and one point on the outside when you're making any kind of an S curve. And again, any curves that are just like arches, you need both points on the outside. So let me get back here. This was the last place that I was. I had this. So I can go ahead and kind of finish this curve. Now I want to make, oh, actually this is a good thing. Right now I can't see where I want to go because this blue is covering it up. Let's go ahead and swap the colors. I'm going to take the blue and put it on the stroke, and I'm going to have no color on the inside of that. Perfect. Now I can see that I want to go a straight line from here to here. Okay? Now, if I try to do that, this point is making it curve. So I can't just click there. I'm going to Command Z that. I can, however, click on my original point to get rid of that arch, and then click here to make that straight line. Now I'm going to start back at making more arches. An arch there. And here, oh, that curve is way too big, so let me Command Z. And I can either click here and maybe try to make the curve smaller. That works. Kind of go back around for that. All right? Now, I'm just going to, I'm not going to do the handle right now. But I'm just going to actually finish this shape. Making these curves here. Making that one there. This one around to the outside. Great. This, again, way too big of a curve. And actually I want a straight line, so I'm going to click on this to make that straight line there. Go back into this. Make this little notch out. And right now I'm just doing the outside silhouette of this. Now if there's anything that's just a little bit off, like say, oh, this little arch here, I kind of want it to be more like a straight line, I can use the direct selection tool to maybe change these things just a little bit. Put this in. But notice anytime I move one of them, the one on the other side is going to move too, so just be aware of how you do things. And this looks like it's a little bit off as well. Let me select that shape. And I finished the shape too. That's really important. Whenever you do this, always finish the shape. Make sure you're going back on the final point. I've got the shape of a hammer. Now what's nice is I did this all on this drawing layer. And if I turn off the photo, and like this little eyeball here, that means that where the layer is visible, and if you click it, the layer disappears. So I can see just how it looks. And it already, just in silhouette, looks like a hammerhead. It's always good to choose objects that look good in silhouette when you're doing this. So for example, a phone looks terrible in silhouette. A tool, like a hammer, looks kind of great in silhouette. A piece of paper looks stupid because it's just a square. You know, so you can tell things that are going to look good in silhouette because they have a more interesting negative space. Alright, so I made this, this thing here. Now the hammer has a handle, so I'm going to go ahead and make the handle now real fast. Let me zoom in. I'm going to make it a different color. Maybe like a darker blue. Click here. I always like zooming in. If you guys don't like zooming in, start liking it. Because it's easier to get your shapes if you can see them. And again, making sure these curves work. That curve does not work. I'm on Command Z. Also, I want to be able to see my stroke, so let's make this curve a lot smaller. Get this one. Back in here. Now, this part right here, I don't want to go back on this line because I might accidentally make gaps and everything. But if I make just a giant shape like this, right, or I'm inside the hammer, this hammer, I already made the line that I wanted to do, the head of this hammer, but I want it to be over on top of this handle. So I'm going to choose the hammer, and then the command bracket will bring it top. If we zoom out, we can see our hammer with a handle. So we've created the silhouette of this hammer. What I can do now is take this hammer and the silhouette of it, and let's move it to the side. Because to really make this hammer look realistic, or a little more realistic, we really need to see things like highlights and shadows. Okay? So that's the next thing I'm going to start dealing with, is highlights and shadows. Use my pen tool. Let me get into this head of this hammer to really start seeing some highlights. And in this color, instead of like that, I'm going to use a lighter color. Starting with this little shape, because this is a nice easy shape to kind of make that highlight. Maybe make this one. There's a nice highlight right in here that I can make. Now at this point I'm starting to work a little bit faster because hopefully you're really understanding how the pen tool works at this point. But again, it's really complicated, so if you don't feel bad. You just really have to work on getting these shapes and how to use this tool down pat. And it looks like there's a little bit of a highlight here. Highlight here. Now notice when I'm done with a shape, you can't really see this one anymore. I am clicking again on that final thing. So I'm making all of these shapes inside of it. Let's also make one more shape. Like that. Cool. Now when I go back to my hammer, or the silhouette of it, and I pull it right to be on top, we have all of the highlights in place, or a bunch of them anyway. Now let's take all of these shapes and move it to the side again, and I can start dealing with some of the shading and the shadows. Like this. When I make this, make it darker. It's kind of a shadowy shape right in here. Kind of looks like that. Maybe I see one under here a little bit. And well, you get the idea. And the more you do this, the more realistic your tool or whatever object you have is going to look, finding the shapes and shadows and the intricacies within the object. Let's talk about what you shouldn't do, even though I'm expecting a lot of you to do it. Okay? Whenever you make shapes, you want to make as big of an arch as you can to make the shape. Alright? That makes it nice and smooth. Okay? What I see people do a lot is make smaller shapes because that's a little too hard for them, they might feel. So they might go with these little shapes and try to get this thing kind of going like this with all these small little shapes. And yeah, they're sort of getting the shape, but if you look at this, this is not smooth at all. And you made, 20 dots where you could have just made one. So always try to make your shapes with the least amount of points possible. If you look at a circle or an oval, they use 4 points to make it. So you don't need, if you're making anything, you don't need more than 4 points to make an arch bigger than a circle. And you can't really get a shape bigger than a circle with arches. Never mind. But knowing that, hey, you can do that with a circle, you definitely can make any arch with just 1 or 2 points. Because this would be just an arch. Okay? So make sure that all of your arches are using the least amount of points possible. Alright? The other thing is make sure too, and I didn't do this here, because I made sure one was on the outside, and there's this kind of gap there, and then this one on the inside is going to make this kind of lumpy and not really work. So make sure that when you're doing arches, that you're really paying attention to both sides. You're paying attention to the point that you're dealing with, and then the point where it's going to go next. Alright? Because that's really going to help make this shape. Right? Now, when you're this is dealing with objects. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit more so we can kind of see what object we had to begin with. Once you have your object done, and this one's not quite done, but you again are kind of understanding the idea of it, we can grab the whole object and hit Command G, and it becomes a shape, or not a shape. It becomes an object that was grouped, and we can move it around and hammer things with it. That is this shape and object demo. Let's kind of save this, actually. Save as hammer. That's how you spell hammer, right? Okay. Click save. You'll see this illustrated. Just click OK. Let's get back into Photo Booth. I'm going to take another picture of myself because we're going to start dealing with doing a self-portrait. And this is going to be a goofy picture. First of all, I'm going to make sure that none of me is cut off, because right here, the top of my head is cut off. Right here, my mouth and chin are cut off. Now nothing's cut off. So I'm going to make a nice goofy face. You don't have to make a goofy face. I just didn't want to make a serious looking face. I wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. So here I am, and I'm going to go ahead and drag me to the desktop. Again, I can take that image and drag it into Adobe Illustrator. Now I have two things open. I have my hammer drawing, and on this tab I have this photo that I just opened. I'm going to lock this photo layer that I just opened. I'm going to double click layer 1, and I'm going to call this photo. I'm going to dim the image to 50%, and I'm going to make a new layer that I'm going to actually draw on. And if I double click this, I can call this drawing. I'm going to recommend starting by making a silhouette. And this is what I'm going to do, is start with a silhouette. And I'm going to start at a point like this, and start making my outline. That was really kind of dumb. Do this. Draw around the ear. Back here, too high of a point. Command Z. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Now my hair, I could maybe get a little detail and get all the little, hair things, but I'm not going to actually worry about that right now. I'm going to just kind of make the shape of my head. Really fast and easy. Alright, as you're seeing at this point, it's gonna start kind of covering up my head and my face. So right now it's working okay. But at this point I'm gonna want to stop. Make this arch right here. Make sure to get the arch of my face and my cheek. That one was a bit off. Also, I'm starting to not be able to see it, so let's take that inside shape and make it white. Hey, let's say, for example, you stop and you do something else. To get back to this point so you can draw on it again, don't just start drawing. You have to make sure to go back to your last point and click. This way it activates that point. Alright, so that's very important. Around there. Like this. I've got a beard that you guys probably won't have to worry about. If you do have a beard, awesome. Go ahead and again, just making the outline of the face, and that was terrible. And there we go. Outline of my face. Great. I'm going to take that shape. God, I really made a goofy face. I'm going to fill it in. I'm not going to use a stroke at all. No stroke. But I'm going to choose a color that may be more like a normal skin tone. Now I can either go through and try to find a color that'll kind of work like that. Remember, I have to have it selected first before I can do that. That's not. That's a little orange, but it'll do for now. And I'll move it off to the side. And once I've got the outline of my face, I'm going to start to put in maybe my neck and my hair. I think that might be a good place to start. So with my neck, I don't care about this because my neck is going on the inside of it. So I'm just going to kind of make the shape like that. Let me go ahead and start making my neck. Filling that in. I'm going to make my neck slightly darker. Slightly. And then when I put my face back on here, I want to put my face in front of my neck. So let me click on my neck, and let's use those command bracket, and I'm going to do shift command bracket because I want my neck to go all the way to the background. Alright? This is what I have so far. A head and a neck that was slightly darker. Great. Let's click on this, move this to the side, and start with my hair. So right now I am kind of finding these big shapes, and I'm going to start with the big shapes and I'm slowly moving smaller. So when it comes to my hair, I could get detailed again, like I said, and maybe deal with getting each, like, I don't know, thing like this. But that's going to get annoying. So I'm going to really just get the basic idea of it. Like this. Let's switch it so I can see what's going on in here. Oops, that was a bad curve. It kind of goes up and in like this. Around like that. Going around, this kind of fades. I should probably shave. But I'll kind of do this. Separates there. Wow, this is fun, isn't it? Just watching me trace my face. Yeah, it's going to be important that you see this, though. So sorry. And I, again, am going really fast. You are most definitely going to be going a lot slower because, well, you haven't been doing this for like 10 years. So let's go ahead and make that beard part. And your hair isn't going to go all the way onto your face again, because I don't really have the beard thing going on. Lucky. Alright, so I finally made this shape. And let me go ahead and make the inside the color. And let me make this, I don't know, like a hair shape. Ooh. Let me take these shapes and pull them back right on top of this. So this is what we have so far. And as you can see, it's really starting to come together as like a face. One of the things you'll notice though is that, hey, I've got my face shape and my hair shape and everything's really starting to get on the same layer. At this point, you might want to start making new layers. So I'm going to take the beard part, okay? And I'm going to click it and I'm going to do Command C. That copies. So if we go to edit, see it's right there, Command C. Right? You could also do Command X, that'll cut it. Command X, it'll get rid of it, but it puts it on the clipboard. A clipboard's kind of a little place to save things. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer Hair. And I'm going to Command V to paste. And if you look up here, edit, paste is Command V. Now, right now when I pasted it, didn't paste it exactly on top of where it was. That's because to paste it exactly on top of where it was is Command F. So now I paste it exactly where it was. Great. So I've got my hair, and I've got my drawing on the layer underneath it. Alright, so I'm making all these layers, and I can move them around if I want my hair underneath my drawing or my drawing on top of my hair. It works that way. But the hair, and if we look at this, hey, there's a lot of points on the outside of my head that are like sticking out from the hair that I did. I don't like that. So I'm going to use my direct selection tool. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to take these points like this one. I have to click the point first, and then I can click it and move it. And I'm just going to move these inside my head because I don't need them out there at all. There's one more here. I'll just pull down. Zoom out. Great, and I did a little bit of a hair thing right there. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing too on my drawing layer. I'm going to just quickly make my shirt. And I'm going to change it to like that. And I'm going to Shift Command bracket to put it behind everything. So we can see that that's what's happening so far. Now, the idea is I can turn off my drawing layer now if I want, and I've got my hair there, I can get a photo, and maybe I want to start putting a little bit more into my hair layer, because I've just got one shape. But I've got highlights, and I've got spots that are darker. And if I went through and really started to detail this by clicking here and moving things around, like maybe getting this, I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to be talking to someone else, so hold on a second. Yeah.
I don't have a model release for this one, it's just like I could do, because I only have 2 different people, so I put 3 pictures on one model release.
Okay. Talk to Pat and Kathy if you can do that.
Yeah, I already did.
Did they say to talk to me?
Yes.
Alright. Tell them that I don't know, and that the directions are all right here. Welcome. Sorry for that. Alright, we're going back into the darker parts of this piece. Oops, that was not what I wanted to do at all. Maybe a little bit of this. Alright, so these parts, I want to keep that color, but maybe make them a little bit darker. And maybe there are some parts that I want to make lighter. Man, my stomach is growling over here. I am hungry. I wonder what's on the lunch menu for today. Alright, so I'm going to select these parts and make them lighter. And those parts I already made darker. And now when I combine the two, I'm starting to get a little bit of a shape to my hair. Okay? When it's just flat, you're seeing a silhouette. When you start getting the lights and darks, you're really starting to build shape up, and you're really starting to get form involved. Okay? So you can see that, and that's the kind of thing that you're going to be doing with, you know, hair, and then starting with parts of your face. Now, the face starts to get a little. I'm sorry. It'll also work with like, you know, this and folds and whatnot. So if I kind of went through again on the shirt real fast. And this is going to be way too fast. Oh, actually, here's another good tool that we haven't talked about yet. This was not done on my drawing layer. I did this on my hair layer, which is bad. But I can click it, Command X to get rid of it. But on my drawing layer, Command F. Yeah, and puts it on that layer. Now, I want this to be this color. So if I click on this and use this eyedropper tool, I should be able to click on the shirt. Now it is that color. Now I can go ahead and make it a lighter version of that color. And you see that I'm starting to get some shape to the shirt as well. Alright, turn that drawing layer off. Let's get back to me. Let's say we're done with the hair for right now. I'm going to make a layer on top of the hair. And let's start dealing with the eyes. Alright. Now the eyes can be rather complicated. And the nose as well, and the ears. Every facial feature is going to be complicated. But the eyes are one of the more complicated ones. It's all about making layers, making subtle changes in skin, and kind of changing things that way. Now, you're probably not going to just want to make a shape of the eye, alright? Because that's not going to work for you. Delete. Do not do that, alright? What I want you to do is focus on shapes of, like, your eyelids, alright? Let's go ahead and start with this color. Alright, get rid of that. Make sure I'm on the eyes layer when I'm doing this. And I'm going to really start with this shape here. That, kind of make that curve. It's kind of going into there. And that is going to be a little bit darker. Little bit darker than a regular skin tone. Alright? You can also see kind of a shape under here. That is, again, even a little bit darker than that. Okay? I also have a little bit of the eyelashes going on. Kind of go here. That's actually significantly darker. And I've got some skin here. That I want to be the same color as this. Just put it behind everything. Alright, so I kind of have this thing going on. I also notice that I have something that's a little bit, not really that pink at all, but yeah, like that. But a little bit of the darker version of it behind everything there. And then maybe a little bit of a lighter version up there. Put that behind everything too, Shift-Command bracket. And I'm also going to make a shape here. I know that seems complicated, putting that behind everything, maybe putting that there. But that is going to look good when it's done. We're going to go ahead and say that's going to look really good when it's done. I know it doesn't seem that way. There's a couple other little things, like really little. You really have to be subtle with your color changes. And, you know, so I've got that. That was the normal skin tone, but I'm making it subtly darker. Like, subtle. And these things that I'm doing here are really going to make this eye look good once I'm done. But it's all about really subtle things, okay? Now that I've got that, let me go ahead and make a shape for my eye, and I'm not even worrying about any of that because I've got the shape all built up. I want this to be not straight up white because my eyeball is not like that. Let's put that behind everything. Alright, and I can even pull this kind of all to the side. It's like I've got Steve Buscemi eyes right there. And when it comes to the eyeball, I can, or the iris I should say, I can legitimately make a circle. That I make a color. Right? And that one, actually I'm going to leave it right there. And then pull all of this back to that. And in this case, I can see my whole iris, but I might need to pull it back a couple layers. Take this and move this.
I got a big
And when I move that, I can go ahead and change this to black. Excellent. Can put this kind of back here. Awesome. And the one thing I also am going to do is put in a little bit of a highlight. Like so. There we go. And when I kind of do this and pull this back in here, you can see that the eye is, you know, close to being finished. I'm not going to make you watch me do the rest of the eye, so I'm going to stop this recording. When I come back, the other eye will be done, and we'll talk about the nose and the ear and the mouth. All right?